You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report, episode 131.2, results and highlights from Saturday's girls basketball games in Blackford, Delaware, Grant, Howard, Madison, Tipton, and northern Hamilton counties. Rob Hunt of the Herald-Bulletin will bring you a report from Richmond, where Alexandria's girls played for a holiday tournament championship, and you'll hear from Alexandria head coach Mickey Hosier.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengels.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whenever you've chosen to listen to the Central Indiana Sports Report, we are so happy to have you with us. Today is December 29th, 2024. It's a Sunday, so it's another day for the Central Indiana Sports Report. I'm your host, Greg Mengelt, and I love Central Indiana sports. Coming to you today from headquarters in Jeffersonville, enjoying a little Christmas break with producer Susie. Welcome to the Scoreboard for girls basketball games in Blackford, Delaware, Grant, Howard, Madison, Tipton, and northern Hamilton counties. It's the last girls basketball scoreboard for 2 or 3 days, but we'll still have podcasts over the next couple of days. I'll have a girls weekend review with reviews of every local team and our weekly honors and our top 20 power poll. We'll also have a bunch of conversations with our local head coaches. I'll release those as I finish them over the next 2 or 3 days. It'll act as both a week in review and a first 2/3 of the season through the end of 2024 review. Michelle Garman will be back on Friday to make Friday's game picks, and we'll be previewing the girls Grant 4 tournament, hopefully on Friday, if all goes according to plan. We'll also have segments on Colts, the Pacers, IU basketball, college football playoffs, plus Will Rutherford's 5 questions that need answers, and some special guests between now and Friday. We start our segment with Saturday scores, then we'll have highlights of all our local teams that played Saturday. Busy Saturday around the area and throughout the state of Indiana. Alexandria won the Casey Polins Memorial Tournament at Richmond. The Tigers are now 16-0 after a pair of comeback wins, 64-63 in double overtime over Charlestown, and 49-45 over Richmond in the championship game. Marion beat Jacksonville 77-39, then lost 50-46 to Connorsville to finish 6th. Northwestern won the Logansport Holiday Tournament by beating Wheeler 62-39, then the host Berries 46-20. Wapahani was runner-up at the Oldenburg Academy Tournament. They beat Cascade 46-43, then lost to the host Twisters 45-30 in the championship game. Cathedral beat Northeastern 65-34 to win the tournament at Northeastern. Kokomo finished 4th after a 69-55 loss to Central Catholic. Western ended a 9-game losing streak with a 50-33 win over Tipton in the 7th place game at Carroll. Lewis Cass beat University 39-31 to win the championship at Carroll. Peru won the Miami County Championship by beating Maconaquah 51-45 in overtime, and Wabash beat Manchester 61-55 to win the Wabash County Tournament. The host Millers won the Noblesville Invitational by beating Norwell 73-71 in overtime, and Valparaiso 43-37. South Bend, Washington beat Carmel 60-53 to win a holiday tournament at Franklin. Brebeuf won its own tournament 51-47 over Marquette Catholic. And in 3 regular old local games, Huntington North beat Mississinawa 59-33. Southern Wells won its 11th game of the season 66-20 over Eastern. And Clinton Central beat rival Clinton Prairie 51-24. Before we get to Saturday's roundup, please go right now and like, subscribe, or follow us at SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon Music, or YouTube. so you don't miss a single segment, please just search Central Indiana Sports Report at any of those places, and we should pop right up. We start the roundup today at Richmond, where Alexandria beat Charlestown 64-63 in double overtime, and then beat host Richmond 49-45 in the championship game to win the Casey Pollens Memorial Tournament at Richmond. Rob Hunt of the Herald-Bulletin covered it and called to tell us about it. Rob Hunt is on his way back home from Richmond after a really good day of basketball. Rob, Alexandria remains unbeaten, and we can't really say they haven't been tested anymore, can we?
No, that ship has sailed. They played a really good 3A team. That Charlestown team is not one I'm familiar with. They're from, I believe, the western or southern part of the state.
Yes.
Help me out. You're my geography guy.
Yes.
South? Was that
Yeah,
right?
it's about 15 minutes from where I am right now, yes. And I'm in
Okay.
Jeffersonville, yes.
All right. So way down south. And I don't know what their sectional looks like, but that's a team that's pretty good. They've got some length. They've got a kids who shoot it. And they pushed Alexandria as far as Alexandria's been pushed, obviously. I mean, double overtime. And when you're talking about a team that's blowing people out every game, I mean, even some teams that, we expected to be pretty good this year. So they've really, Alexandria has not been tested, or it doesn't look like they've been tested. They have been now. And,
Yes.
they get that win in double overtime. They needed the supporting cast to kind of pick up the slack there because one thing Charlestown did that was very, very, very solid was defending Jacqueline Hosier, which not many people have done real well. She came in she averaged about 27 a game. They held her to 19, and some other kids had to step up. And then they turn around and a couple hours later and have to play the host on their home court, 4A Richmond. And they're not going to make a run in the tournament. That's not that kind of a Richmond team, but certainly it's still a talented 4A team. And Alexandria, again, was tested, fell behind, had to come back, and ended up winning it with really a strong fourth quarter performance by the whole team. So, yeah, I was really impressed with what Alexandria was able to do this weekend down in Richmond.
By the way, Charlestown is in the same sectional with Silver Creek, so that's not going to end well for them. But
that's a tough draw, man.
Yes, it is.
Because that's a good team. That's a good team, man.
It is a good team. It is a good team that's not quite on Silver Creek's level. What was the difference for Alexandria in the overtime win over Charlestown?
Yeah, double overtime. They had to get some points from some unlikely sources. This freshman Conley Davidson, and she's gonna. I don't know if you've seen her play yet.
Yes.
She's gonna be a force at that school in the coming years. She hit a huge 3-pointer. Stella Griffin comes off the bench. She doesn't play a whole lot of varsity action. She hit 2 threes. Her first 2 3-point attempts of the game. Finished with 8 points. Just a really nice game off the bench. And really the star of the game to me was Riley Kellums, the senior post. Another kid who she starts. She's a very important part of this team. Don't get me wrong, but not necessarily a kid you look to be a big-time scorer for them. She scores 14 today.
Yeah.
In that game, and I believe 10 came in the fourth quarter and in overtime.
Wow.
So the 2 overtime periods. So she was big when they needed them to be, and they defended Hosier. They kept her pretty much under wraps most of that game. That was probably as hard at 19 points as she's ever had.
And then the championship game, it seemed like Alexandria, a game where they had to fight out of a hole for once.
That one seemed like it was starting to get away from them a little bit. A kid from Richmond, and they had a couple kids that could shoot it. One hit a 3-pointer, it was a 3-point shot, and that gave them a 9-point lead, which I'm guessing that's the biggest deficit Alexandria's faced all year because they never trailed by that much in the first game today. But they certainly in the second half it's the biggest deficit they faced, and they kind of had to chip away at that. And this time around, it was more Hosier that made some big plays. Don't get me wrong, she got some help. Lily Harp had a really nice second half in this game. for the Tigers, but Hosier made I think she made 8 straight free throws in the second half. Got to the basket, which she was having trouble doing in the first half, but the Davidson kid again hits a 3-pointer that helped get them take the lead. I can't remember off the top of my head if that was the one that put them ahead for good. I don't think it was, but it did put them back on top. I think a Kellum's basket later gave the lead for good, but so it was a lot of Hosier and a little bit of that sporting cast, and that's really kind of got to be I think that's starting to make Coach Mickey Hosier smile a lot more. And we know what we're going to get from Jack, right? She's going to go out there and put 25 on the board on a pretty much a night in, night out basis. If he's going to start getting 8-9 points from 4 or 5 other kids on a nightly basis, that makes them very tough to beat. Another thing that was big, I thought, was they got absolutely just demolished on the glass against Richmond in the first half. I believe it was 27-11 was the margin.
Whoa.
They actually out-rebounded Richmond in the fourth quarter. So, and Richmond has a lot of length, but a lot of that was Hosier again. She ended up with a double-double, but they were able to even things out on the glass a little bit in the second half, and that made a difference for them holding on.
Charlestown left Richmond at 6-6. They lost the consolation game 50-46 to Connorsville. Richmond is now 6-8. They beat Connorsville 56-52 in the semifinals. Alexandria is now 16-0. Jacqueline Hosier had 25 points and 11 rebounds in the championship game. She was named tournament MVP. Riley Kellums was also all tournament for the Tigers. I spoke with Alexandria head coach Mickey Hosier after his team's championship day. Well, Coach, I think the one question everybody had after 14 games coming into this weekend is what would happen in a close game with the Alexandria Tigers, and I think you got some answers at least today.
Yeah, definitely. We had two games that came down to the wire, and both games we were trailing late in the fourth quarter, and the first game and we were trailing by 7 in overtime, and yeah, just learned a lot about our team and just making those decisions in games, and even as coaches, we just haven't had very many of those games where we have to call timeouts and draw all the stuff up late, and so I was just excited to be in those positions with our team and very excited that we made a bunch of great plays down the stretch.
And what do you think it was about your team that was able to make comebacks against both Charlestown and Richmond?
Yeah, I think we never panicked. We just felt good about our defense is always the type of defense where we can create turnovers. We didn't do it the whole game in both games, but when we needed it, we were able to just cause timely turnovers and make shots or get offensive rebounds or make free throws. And so, coming in, even though we were undefeated, it's like we just haven't had to do those things. And so it was great for our team, our program to just be in those positions.
And your thoughts on being Richmond holiday tournament champions?
Yeah, I mean, you can't complain too much. Obviously, we want to get better, and we still got a lot of our season ahead of us, with the county and the bulk of our conference season after the new year. So, we're going to enjoy this for a couple days and have some time off, and then get back at it and try to continue to get better.
Very excited for the Madison County tournament coming up. Alexander, as Coach Hosier said, starts at 1-14 Anderson on Monday, January 6th. Marion finished 7th at Richmond after going 1-1 on Saturday. First, the Giants lost 63-45 to Purdue Poly Inglewood. Freshman Naomi Hahn had 20 points for the Giants. Senior Shania Scott had 10 points. And senior Malaya Gamble finished with 8. Purdue Poly improved to 10-3 with the win. They finished 6th and in December 10-4 after a 59-35 loss to Ben Davis in the final round. Marion then finished 7th with a 77-39 win over Jacksonville. That improved the Giants to 6-8 on the year, and they host 0-12 Eastern on Saturday. Jacksonville's now 5-9. They lost 82-19 to Ben Davis in the consolation bracket. At Northeastern, Kokomo finished in fourth place after a 69-55 loss to Central Catholic. The game was tied after the first quarter, 20-20, but then Central Catholic took control by outscoring the Wildcats 19-9 in the second quarter. Kokomo is now 10-4, the program's fifth double-digit win season in a row. Freshman Jordan Brown led the Wildcats with 12 points. She also had 4 rebounds and 3 steals. Sophomore Satira Scott had 11 points, 4 rebounds. Senior Michaela Drake, 10 points. Junior Amara Stroman finished with 9 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists. Kokomo hosts 5-8 Frankton on Friday. Central Catholic is now 11-2. Senior Carly Barrett finished with 22 points, 7 steals, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists. Senior point guard Grace Bondurant had 21 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals. I believe she's 5'4" and had 12 rebounds. Northwestern won the championship at the Logansport Invitational. The Tigers beat Wheeler 62-39 in the first round, then beat the host Berries 46-20 in the championship game. The Tigers snapped a 3-game losing streak at the win over Wheeler. They are now 5-9 and host 5-9 Manchester Friday in a Three Rivers Conference game. Manchester lost to Wabash in overtime in the Wabash County Championship game on Saturday. Logansport is now 2-13. They defeated Argos 38-33 in overtime in the first round to end a 12-game losing streak. Wapahani finished second in a very tough field at Oldenburg Academy. It was a one-day, 2-game tournament. All 4 teams there were really good. The Raiders started the day with a 59-49 win over Cascade, their 9th consecutive win. Then Class A number 6 Oldenburg Academy beat Wapahani 45-30 in the championship game. Oldenburg took control early in the game and led 11-3 after one quarter and 24-16 at halftime. Wapahani is now 13-2. They're at Eastbrook on Tuesday, January 7th. The Twisters, I just love that name, are now 10-2. They beat Shortridge 44-37 in the first round. We also had 2 standalone games. Huntington North beat Mississinawa 59-33 in Huntington. The game was tied 11-11 after the first quarter, but Huntington North took a 13-2 advantage in the second quarter and a 21-7 advantage in the third. Mississinawa is now 4-8. They were led by senior J.C. Cricks, 18 points. She also had 3 rebounds and 2 steals. Senior Emma Wakeman had 7 points. Senior Avery Wilson had 4 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 steals. The Indians are at 3-10 Madison Grant on Saturday in the first round of the Grant 4 tournament. Huntington North is now 9-5. Southern Wells dropped Eastern to 0-13 with a 66-20 victory on Saturday. Senior Marley Cohn had 4.6 rebounds and 3 assists for the Comets, who also got 6 points from freshman Gianna Beachy and 4 each from freshman Lainey Newland and senior Kinsey Eagle. Eastern goes to Marion on Saturday afternoon to face the 6-8 Giants. Southern Wells is now 1-3. And now you know everything we know about Central Indiana girls basketball. Before we get to the Central Indiana girls basketball player of the day, I just want to ask you to please share the Central Indiana Sports Report with your friends. I know you've been thinking of a friend or family member or somebody who would love the Central Indiana Sports Report. Please tell them about it so we continue to grow. No surprise here, the Central Indiana Sports Report girls basketball player of the day for Saturday is Alexandria senior Jacqueline Hosier. She had 25 points and 11 rebounds in the Tigers' 49-45 come-from-behind victory over host Richmond in the championship game at the Richmond Invitational. In the semifinal, she had 19 points to help the Tigers remain undefeated and beat Charlestown in double overtime. Thanks to Coach Mickey Hosier for joining the Central Indiana Sports Report, and to the Herald-Bulletin's Rob Hunt for his report from Richmond. Always appreciate those guys, the job that they do, and their willingness to come on the Central Indiana Sports Report and talk basketball. And thank you for listening. Susie and I hope you have the happiest new year in the history of New Year's. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media. And I love Susie.